So we're going to look at how to understand what you're reading. We're going to look at the main idea. We're going to look at supporting details, author's message, and text structure. So the first thing we're going to look at is the main idea and details. So a main idea is what the text is all about. So a main idea means that everything in our text, everything in our passage is going to be all about one topic. So in our example video, what was the main topic? Diego? Penguins. And we knew that because that's what all those sentences were about, right? They were about different types of penguins. But the details are the key points that support the main idea. So they're the things that are broken down, right? They're the specific details that tell us things about our main idea. So what was a detail from the video? Do you remember? Emily?
That the penguins they
Squared? Okay, that's good. Just one was fine. So a detail has to be something that's about our main idea. So when we want to ask ourselves these questions to find main idea. What is the passage mostly about? What are we reading about? What is the whole purpose or the whole point? What are we reading for? To learn about. Another thing we need to ask ourselves is what could be another title? So when you're reading it, as you read this information, in the example, we were learning about penguins. But there was no title, right? So we could put the title as penguins, or what they eat, or different kinds of penguins. So that would be our title, what the whole passage is about. What is the important detail from this selection? That would be what we just said, what we ate, or the 4 different types of penguins. And then which details best support the main idea? So what details help us understand that this is what this text is about? So we read the title and we look at the pictures to make a prediction. Then as we read, we identify what's important and unimportant. And in informational text, that's not fiction, but nonfiction, that's really easy to do because the important information and the important details are usually separated. So they might be highlighted, they might be bolded, there might be a picture or a caption or a diagram. And then for important details to create the main idea, we want to look for, maybe we have 3 paragraphs about one idea. So maybe from each paragraph, we'll look for what's the best detail about this paragraph that supports my main idea. So we're just breaking it down, right? That's what analysis is? Yes? So another thing we need to know are what an implied or an inferred message is. Does anybody know what it means to infer? I know it's a word we hear a lot in our questions. Damien said what the story is mainly focusing on. But to think about it this way is in our text, there's a message given to us from the author to the reader. So the implied is the author's message that he wants us to figure out. So if they say something, they want us to realize that this is what they want us to get out of it. They want us to think a certain way, or they want us to see facts and situations from a specific point of view. But if we infer, that's what the reader does. So when I'm reading something and I take some kind of, maybe when I read poetry, we can read poems and feel emotions, right? That's what they're really good for, or songs. And so when we hear those or read those, we get a specific message or feeling from that song, and that's based on the reader. So the reader makes an inference, we're the receiver, while the author makes an implication, the thing that they want to send to us. So for text structure, these are the different ways that, what is a text? Is it Jaden?
Words.
Just the words. So if this is a text structure, that means how these words are put together. So we've talked about these before, but we're going to talk about 5 different ones real quick. We're just going to look at them, look at some keywords, because I know you already know this. So if we're looking at a description, that means we're looking for words that describe, right? Description is to describe. It tells us about something. So words we might see would be such as, for instance, in addition to, things that will give us facts or details about maybe our main idea, maybe our details. So they'll tell us about something. But a problem and solution, what would that be? What would be an example of a problem and solution in a text? It's just like the title. What does that mean if there's a problem and solution? That means we're reading first that there's something, there's a problem, right? So there's something wrong, or something that needs to be fixed, or something that needs to be addressed or taken care of. And so, like a baby. Okay, so let's say there's a baby. There's some kind of situation that needs to be taken care of. What would be and then there's a problem. So we meet the problem first. We meet this baby that's causing all kinds of problems. And then what's the other half of it? There's a solution, right? So what's a solution, Trevor? To put him to sleep. So we give a bottle maybe, rock him a little bit, make them stop crying. And a solution is just an answer, right? So that means there's something wrong, and then how we're going to fix it. So we read that kind of stuff all the time, right? Like in our stories, the characters always have problems that they need to fix and figure out by the end of the story. Or if we read about problems that are affecting our environment, health problems, different problems and solutions exist all around us. That's how we move forward. And words we can look for would be problem, issue, since, as a result, idea, leads to. So different things that make a connection between this is the problem and this is the thing that needs to fix it. They're comparing and contrasting. Someone give me an example of two things you can compare that's not from our board. Jake?
You can compare like a bug to something that's big.
A bug to something that's big. Why would we compare a bug to something that's big? Because a bug is small, right? So we would be comparing sizes then. So to make a comparison, though, is to really see what are similar. And to contrast something is to see what's different between those two things. So when we see passages that are comparing and contrasting, they're going to tell us about two or more topics, and they're going to say things that are the same between those two ideas or things that are different. So we would look for words that would be similar, same, alike, both. Those would tell us that that's something both of these things have. Or we could look for unlike, on the other hand, instead, and that means that there's something different between those two ideas. Cause and effect. It is raining outside. So if you go outside, what will happen to you? You'll get wet. What is the cause of our situation? It's raining, right? And the effect is that you'll get wet. So that relationship only happens, though, if you go outside. So just because it's raining doesn't mean you'll get wet if you stay inside. Make sense? So what are some words for cause and effect? What would be some words? Don't look. Damien?
Because.
Because. John?
How?
How?
Like how it happened.
Okay. Richard?
Why?
Why? Rebecca?
As a result.
As a result. But here are some other ones. Consequently, therefore, leads to, due to. So, that's a good one. So, this happens. So, this happens. And our last one we're going to talk about is sequencing. What is sequencing? What are we doing when we sequence something? Tommy?
Putting it in order.
Putting it in order. So, if we're putting something in order, that means that there's something first, and there's something last, and there might be something in between. Most probably, right? So, what are some transition words, right? That's what we use in our writing to separate our first, middle, and last, or beginning, middle, and end. So what are some words we could use for that? Joseph?
In conclusion.
Okay, in conclusion, we might see that in a text. Emily?
To begin with.
To begin with.
After that.
After that. The last thing we're going to look at is paraphrasing and summarizing. So if you are asked to paraphrase a text, that means that you're going to talk about that text and tell about it and describe it and explain it in your own words. But if you're summarizing, then you have to make sure that you include the main details, or the main idea and the details. So if they ask for a summary, you have to write what was in that story. If you're paraphrasing, you can include just the things that stick out to you. Does that make sense? Yes. So paraphrasing is more in your own words. Summarizing is making sure that you include the author's words. Okay, so we're going to read this poem, and then we're going to look at some questions. Butterfly poetry. The little caterpillar creeps through my garden like a soft sculpture, nibbling here, nibbling there, munching on leaves everywhere, eating and growing. Now in the chrysalis it sleeps, after weaving a silken home, changing here, changing there, being transformed within its lair, created anew. A beautiful butterfly now peeps from its silken home to the skies, flying here, flying there, lighting on flowers everywhere, delighting me. What do you think the main idea of our poem is? Julia?
About a butterfly?
It's about a butterfly. But did it start off as a butterfly? No. It's about a caterpillar that grows and becomes a butterfly.
Like the life cycle?
So, yeah, like the life cycle, right? It tells us the story about this little caterpillar. Okay. Question 1. What happens first in the poem? So if we're looking for what happens first, where are we going to look at?
In the first paragraph.
In the first paragraph. So, this is our first paragraph. And even more so, this is our first sentence. The little caterpillar creeps through my garden like a soft sculpture. So if that's our first sentence, what would our answer be? Charlie?
The caterpillar creeps.
Caterpillar creep. Was Charlie correct?
Yes.
Yes. Were all of you correct?
Yes.
Yes. So the caterpillar creeps is our very first sentence, so that's what happens first. Compare the caterpillar at the beginning of this poem with the butterfly at the end of the poem. Use details and information from the poem to support your answer. So to do this, first of all, what's our question? We're comparing the caterpillar at the beginning and the butterfly at the end. Who can tell me one detail about the caterpillar? Alicia? Okay, so first we know that it creeps and it's like a soft sculpture. What about a detail about the butterfly? Derry?
A beautiful butterfly has beaks.
Okay.
It fruits.
What does that mean? What's it doing then? So it now peeps, and what's happening? Okay, so we know that this butterfly is beautiful, and what is it doing?
It's silken home.
It's flying away from its silken home. So that means it's leaving its, do we know what it's called? The chrysalis, right? So it's leaving from its chrysalis. So how do we write this sentence then? So we need to have at least 2 sentences because we want to compare the caterpillar and the butterfly. Let's compare our answer. At the beginning, the butterfly creeps and is like a soft sculpture. It eats leaves and is growing. At the end, the butterfly is beautiful and flies. It lights on flowers and delights the poet. So, we compared the caterpillar and the butterfly, correct?
Yes.
And did we use at least 2 details?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So that's an important thing to remember. If they say to use details, that's a plural. That means more than one. So when we explain our answer, we need to use the details from the poem or from our text. Jaden?
So if it has an S at the end, the details, it means that you're going to
That means you'll get all your points instead of maybe just one. Why did the poet say the caterpillar is like soft sculpture?
It's pleasing.
It's pleasing. So how did you know that answer, Diego?
Because it kept moving and it was eating. And that's kind of.
Okay, so because it was eating and moving, we knew it couldn't be the second or third one. But it couldn't be a chrysalis either because it was a caterpillar. Yeah, it was still the caterpillar. So by process of elimination, which means getting rid of all the wrong answers, we would know that A is the right answer, or the first answer is the right answer. But also, if you think about it, art is supposed to appeal to us. So that means when we look at it, we like what we see. So that's what the sculpture would be in that poem. So looking at this caterpillar is pleasing to us. But good strategy, guys. Why is the poet delighted with the butterfly? Use details and information from the poem to support your answer. So what does it mean to be delighted?
Happy.
To enjoy? To be happy?
Very happy.
Okay. So what about the butterfly? What about the butterfly, which is our third paragraph, makes the poet happy? What is the butterfly doing? It's beautiful.
From its skin home and silk.
It's on flowers, delighting me. Huh. So, what does that mean if it's beautiful, it's on flowers, and it's delighting me?
It's she's happy.
She's happy? Okay.
About the butterfly changing and making her.
What's a sentence we can write about? And remember, we want to use details, so we want to write about more than one thing that's taken from our poem. And we want to make sure we write complete sentences, right? So that means we include the
details?
the question in our answer. So the poet is delighted with the butterfly. And what did Damien say?
I said lighting on the flowers.
Because it's next to the flowers? But before the butterfly can make the flowers beautiful, what did the poet say at the beginning of our stanza? He said that the butterfly is beautiful itself, right? So the butterfly is beautiful and makes the flowers beautiful too. Are we good with that answer? Mm-hmm. Let's compare. The poet thinks that butterflies are beautiful. He likes the way they fly everywhere and lights on flowers. He said they delight me. So did we explain why the poet is delighted? Yes. Did we use at least two details?
Yes.
We did. We just combined it into one sentence. So we had mentioned it, but we didn't put it in our thing. But to use exact words from the text is really